Board of Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, August 16th, 2016. I'd like to make an announcement that the meeting is being recorded. And before we start, we'd like to take a moment of appreciation for our brave servicemen and servicewomen that are serving around the world. Thank you. We will be going into executive session at the close of our meeting tonight to discuss a potential land acquisition. We do have a couple of things up for tonight on the agenda. We've got at 7 o'clock, we have a public hearing to talk with some folks, a gentleman here from Solar City, and we also have a 7:15 another public hearing regarding the Kingsbury Club. So I think first up, we've got our 7 o'clock public hearing for the application of, is it Ehren?
Ehren, yes.
Okay, Rotor, to solicit Medfield on behalf of Solar City, which is, and he's located in Marlborough. Now,
Right.
Mark, do I need to read, should I read this notice? Do I need to read the notice that was in the paper or not?
You can declare you could declare the meeting open. I just indicate in the record that the notice was placed wherever
Okay.
it was.
Yep, okay. Yeah, so for the record, we did place a notice for this public hearing in the Medfield Press for June 5th of 2016, so we do have a copy of it here. And I guess without further ado, Ehren, if you'd like to chat with us a little bit about your application, maybe you can use the podium up there, that'd be great.
Okay,
The
is that
microphone, that'd be-
appropriate?
Yep, that'd be
Way to
great.
do it?
Yeah,
All right.
that'd be great.
Fair enough. So Evelyn, thank you for assisting me with the application and whatnot. So like many of you have the option and choice to choose where you might have dinner or live or go to school. Most of you don't have the choice of where you get electricity. And I know that recently Medfield has been selected as one of the mass energy towns to take advantage of solar, and I think it's SunPower is who you've chosen to work with, so as a town. And so Solar City is one of the largest, or is the largest solar provider for residential solar programs and systems in the country. We have about a 35% market share nationwide. We're owned by, Solar City is a partner company of Tesla Motors. So we're excited to be purchased by them in the near future. And so, we're essentially a sales organization that looks to give people an option on where they get their electricity. By using our solar systems, they save between 20 and 40% typically on their residential solar or the residential electrical expenses. And as the state of Massachusetts has mandated, we want to have a higher percentage of electricity coming from renewable sources. So that's kind of the basic backdrop of what Solar City is. I've been in business for many years. I worked in the mortgage industry for 14 years. I ran the private mortgage banking group for Wells Fargo for many years. And so this is sort of a new calling for me, wanting to make a difference in the world, doing good things. We save, and anytime we put a solar system on a home, we're saving millions of gallons of water. We're essentially, in essence, planting thousands of acres of trees. And so electricity is, especially with water, very intensive water usage to create electricity. And so, it's part of a passion of mine to help do my part and save the world, frankly. I'm an enrolled student at the Boston Architectural College in sustainable design, getting a master's degree there. And so this is sort of a step along the way, doing something that's both beneficial to myself as well as to residents in the community.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, as far as what your plan is, as far as how you're going to approach people in town.
Sure. Typically what we do is, although I'll do networking and things like that from my business background, a big piece of what Solar City does is what we call door knocking.
Yeah.
So, I've registered with the town. I've got a state license, a peddler's and hawker's license. So essentially I will look at a neighborhood, I'll go to the police station and say, hey, I want to go to this particular neighborhood, and I'll spend an afternoon or an evening in there and knock on doors and, say, hey, I'm Ehren Rotor from Solar City. I'd like to take a few minutes of your time. I'm not here to sell you anything. And what I'd like to do is tell you that you have some options about where you get your electricity. And so my job is very simple, to see if your home qualifies based on its relation to the sun, whether it's a safe roof, whether it's, needs repair or not. And from there, we look at whether or not they're open to taking several options, which may, which will benefit them from an electric, perspective, a cost perspective. And so then begins a conversation with people.
Yeah.
Some people are open to that conversation and others aren't.
Sure.
And that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Pete, some questions?
So are you guys actually an installer of residential solar?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so we're what we call a vertically integrated company. So, from the very first sort of initial conversation that I might have with the homeowner to a home inspection, where we bring people up on the roof and inspect to make sure the home is safe, all the way through an architectural design phase with blueprints, town, permits, all the way through installation and getting the approval from, most likely in this area, Eversource, to turn on the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so solar, we do have commercial arms that might do, 30,000 square foot, installations on the top of a, large commercial facility.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, how old can a person's roof be and still make it reasonable to install the residential solar?
Good question. How old's your roof?
Not that old.
Really about typically most modern kind of roofs are around a 25-year lifespan for typically. So if we're around that 18 to 20, we're kind of going to have some questions about, whether it's safe and solid. Now, we do have relationships with roofers, of course, because it's sort of a natural. And if we do have something where a homeowner really is interested and it makes good sense from the azimuth of the sun that it's a good solar system to put on, we'll actually, at Solar City, we'll actually provide us a financial benefit, maybe $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to the cost of replacing a roof. So we'll help a homeowner with that in certain situations.
So are you doing leases or are you doing sales of the systems?
All of the above. So we have several different choices. We have what's called a PPA, which is a power purchase agreement.
Yeah.
You're probably familiar with some of this lingo now that you've gone.
It's like a lease, right?
No, that's where Solar City owns the system.
Right, and we rent you our roof, basically.
Essentially, we're using your roof
Yeah.
for the benefit. You get a reduced rate, typically around 13.5 cents per kilowatt hour versus most often people are around 23, 22 cents through Eversource. And so what'll happen is in the summertime, they'll sort of bank a lot of electricity. They'll produce more electricity than they use. It goes into the system so that Eversource will give them a credit. And in the winter, they sort of take advantage of that credit.
So on the lease situation like that, if I'm leasing you my roof.
That's an option as well.
Or the PPA, talk to people about what happens if they then sell their house.
Okay. Great question, and that's a real concern that a lot of people have. Solar City does not put a UC1 lien on a home. We do not put a mechanics lien on a home. So what happens is that with any of our products, whether it's they purchase the product, they lease, do a true lease, or the power purchase agreement, the system is transferable to the new homeowner. Okay. Now, if somebody bought a $30,000 system and they sell the house 3 years from now, that might be a piece of negotiation between a realtor and the buyer and seller. But we have no intention or need or desire to put any sort of liens on a system. We're one of the largest solar companies. And
Because you're
so,
continuing to get your electricity from the system, so you don't need the lien, is that the reason?
pardon, say again?
You're continuing to get the electrical generation from the system.
Right, and so you just transfer it to the new homeowner. And so what new homeowners are going to say, gee, I'm happy to have a 30% reduction in my electrical bill. But there's no UC1 filing, there's no mechanics liens that.
So that doesn't interfere with then the transfer of the house?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Which is there's over 3,000 solar companies right now in Massachusetts. And so being a national player at 35% of the market share, we have the strength to be able to withstand I've talked to people already, in my short time at Solar City that have had problems with, they'll say their friends have sold a house and it's a big issue because there can be a UC1 filed.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
My only question with this is, this is not actually for you. I don't have any questions for you.
Okay.
I have a question for Mark or Mike. Is there any, there's no restraint on our ability to approve this license in the new solarized Medfield agreement that we had entered into, is there? No, okay.
It's actually the other way, isn't it? We're not allowed to say no to this, basically.
What?
We can't deny this type of permit, can we, legally?
You can, this is a commercial soliciting, you can if there were grounds like if there was a bad criminal check or something like that. You can also condition it, so the question ought to be, what hours are you proposing to solicit?
But without grounds, we're required, aren't we, to basically to,
Right, you'd have to
grant
have
it.
some
Yeah.
valid.
All right, and you're fine with everything, right, Bob? You've chatted with him and stuff as far as, or the procedure down for the neighborhood notification,
That
right?
will
That's the
occur,
biggest
right.
thing, yeah, okay.
And the neighborhood notification, as he's already mentioned, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's
Because
good.
then, when we start getting the calls, the dispatcher knows, yes.
Exactly,
it's the solar folks,
yeah,
they're in the Flintlock area tonight,
Yeah.
they're fine.
yeah, okay, good.
Usually there's concern about soliciting after dark, so we usually try to restrict it to certain hours
Yeah.
that would be before daylight.
Yeah, and I guess up
Before
to dusk, is that what we
sunset,
normally do?
sunset,
Yeah,
yeah.
Tricia, that would make sense, right? Yeah, obviously you're not gonna go out, dark,
No,
You're not
I
gonna-
mean, this
people are
time
not
of
gonna
year,
feel
this time of
comfortable.
year, we would
Yeah.
be finishing up around now.
Okay, so I think that's,
do you do Saturdays and Sundays too?
I do, yeah. Well, people are home then,
Yes.
so it's a
Okay.
good opportunity to chat with people and have that conversation.
what are your thoughts?
We
as far as-
usually don't allow Sundays.
Sundays,
Okay,
all right, yeah, that's, yes.
that's fine.
So are you applying on behalf of yourself, or do you have a whole crew that's gonna be doing this?
No, right now it's just myself. Within Solar City, each salesperson, solar consultant has sort of a territory.
Yeah.
It's just taken me a while to get mine.
Good, okay.
So, yeah.
Just nothing to do with issuing the license, but just out of curiosity, I've read where Tesla is, one of the reasons Tesla's buying Solar City is because they're trying to integrate it with battery storage. Is that still a few years away?
No longer, well, the battery storage product is probably a year to 2 years away, from what I know and understand. But the actual merger and acquisition and sale is something that will probably happen in the fourth quarter of this year.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll not have this shirt on, I'll have a Tesla Energy shirt on
There
in
you
a few
go.
months.
Excellent. Good. All right, so what we're looking at then, I guess, is we're doing Monday through Saturday, right? No Sundays.
Sure.
And you gotta be done by dusk, right?
And usually you set a time period of
When did you wanna
month or
start? As soon as
whatever.
possible, or what's your date-wise?
Oh, in terms of getting started,
Time and stuff like that, yeah. When
yeah, as soon as possible.
And finishing.
And finishing, when were you looking to finish and stuff?
Well, so are you asking a time frame
Yeah,
within the
time-
day?
roughly, yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
I think he's asking weeks or months.
Usually it's for like 3 months or 6 months,
or something like that.
right, I would say 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Is
Yeah.
that okay?
Typically, none of us really go out before like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And maybe, again, till dusk, 7, 8 o'clock. And then, of course, in the, in the winter, it'll be earlier.
Yeah, stuff like that, okay, all right.
Is 6 months a usual okay time frame, Mike?
Can you do a little shorter than that?
Usual one.
Is that a usual okay time frame for this sort of thing?
Yeah, I think Mark has said that under court decisions, you can't, you have to set a specific time. You can't say dusk, because dusk changes, so that's what you
Wow.
said.
You've got way more flexibility with this, it's basically goods and services. Where we get into dicey stuff is when there's somebody out there advocacy type things,
Oh,
like
I see what you
Mass
mean.
or something
Oh, I
like
see what
that,
you mean, yeah.
First Amendment issues. That's not what we're dealing with here. This is
Political
strictly
campaign.
commercial. This is
Yeah.
strictly commercial regulation, so you've got a
Okay.
fair amount of
Flexibility.
discretion, flexibility.
All right.
So I would move that we grant the license to solicit for a period of 6 months,
Mhm.
excluding periods when it's dark and Sundays.
Do we have a second? on it?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All set.
Thank you.
Sign
Good
this
luck.
and we're done.
Thank you,
Good luck.
appreciate it.
We've got scheduled a 7:15 public hearing for folks from Kingsbury Club. I think a continuation, we have been talking about, they've been looking for, I guess, an alcohol and beverage license, I think, for around their pool area and stuff,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
continuation.
And
Okay.
the reason for the hearing tonight is
Yeah.
because it wasn't advertised when he came the first time.
Okay, so it's the same request?
Same
Yes.
request.
Okay.
just
Same
the
request,
formality. Thank
just
you.
the
Okay.
formality.
Formality, okay, all right. So we'll wait to see.
Because it sounded a lot like what we'd considered already.
Exactly.
I couldn't remember if there was a problem. I didn't, you know, it's yeah. Okay, so we'll wait and see if the folks come from the Kingsbury Club. We do have Police Chief Meany is here, and he wanted to discuss a few things. I think parking on Adams Street, and I guess an application to civil service, I guess?
Yes, so I have currently 3 funded openings,
Okay.
2 for retirements, and 1 because we have a little bit of a history event. A week ago Monday, Michelle Manganello started as our first school resource officer.
Oh, excellent.
So at some point when she's into the job, I probably be appropriate to bring her down,
Yeah,
have
definitely.
you say hello to her. She's going to go to the school committee. We're both going to the school committee, I believe, on the 22nd.
Okay, yeah,
To introduce her there. She's already been working.
yeah.
She and Michael LaFrancesca have been riding some of the bus routes. So that's,
So will she be there she'll be full-time then with the school?
yes,
right?
so
Yeah, or
she's
whatever
going
her schedule
to,
is, yeah.
she's going to be the primary contact person for the schools, for the
Yeah.
crossing guards, for the school buses.
Wow,
And then she's also going to assist with some investigations and whatnot.
yeah.
And then any other tasks as the chief shall deem appropriate.
Okay.
That wonderful catch-all that I love.
She'll
But
be
she's
busy.
very excited.
She'll be very busy, I would think.
Oh,
There's
yes.
a lot of stuff. that
Oh,
wants
yes,
to-
yeah, and it's especially, I think, this year with the change in the bus schedules, to get the school times only just the elementary start
Yeah.
and the middle and high school start, as opposed to 3 start times.
Oh, was that, I forgot, so is that what they
Yeah.
changed up the start times and
Yeah.
stuff like that?
So if you have elementary school children, you can send them out 1 time,
Yeah.
instead of if they went to Wheelock
Oh.
and Memorial, you had to be out there 2 times.
Yep.
So, but there's some teething with that, and some issues, and I think Michael and Michelle rode around in the cruiser together for a few hours the other day, so that's worked out well. So as a result of that, I would like to begin the process, not do the hiring, but begin the process of getting a list from civil service,
Okay,
having people come in, giving the applicant packages out,
yeah.
taking a look, see what we're going to do. There is an academy that starts on the 31st of October.
Okay.
That's my target date
Yeah,
to get that done.
Get through going for that, yeah, yeah.
So that's what I'd be looking for, just the permission to start the hiring process from you folks.
Okay. Pete, would you like to make a motion for that? I guess we need a formal vote.
I would move that we,
Request of the civil services.
what do we do? We request a civil service list? That we request a civil service list.
Authorize the chief to request. a
Authorize the chief to,
Excellent.
I would move that we,
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know if you're done.
I was just gonna move that we let Mark make the motion.
Well, I'll second that.
I have the easy job. All in favor?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or
And
really,
then,
it's Evelyn that writes the motions.
And then item number 2
Yeah.
is probably one of the more practical things
Yeah.
that I have brought for you. So on Adam Street,
Yes,
between the Dale Street School and the Memorial School,
okay.
on the side of the road where the schools are,
Yeah.
there's a sidewalk. So you can get out of the car, you can step onto the sidewalk. But as it is currently, we have no parking there.
Uh-huh.
So you park on the other side of the street,
Yeah.
on the lawns of the neighbors,
Yeah.
put rocks along the edge of the road,
Yeah.
and then you walk between the cars and you cross the street.
Yeah.
So my thought was, why not
Flip it.
Flip it.
flip it?
Yeah.
And I've spoken with Jeff Marsden, superintendent of schools. I've spoken with the principals up there, and they think this would be a good idea. I'll leave the time parameters the same. The time parameters restrict the parking from 7:30 in the morning till 3:30. So I'm just going to change the side of the street.
Oh, and they can park between those hours,
Then
right?
they can
Yeah,
park between
during
those-
school hours, roughly. So,
Yeah,
okay.
and actually, it'll be a prohibit parking
Yeah.
on the west side
On the west side.
of
okay.
Adam Street.
Okay,
And I
okay,
think that will make the neighbors happy.
okay,
It makes it safer for the children,
Yeah.
simpler for the parents,
Yeah.
and just Between that and the parking lot that replaced where the station is now, that's cleared up a lot of the traffic issues around the Dale, Adams Street area.
Yeah.
And I think this will be a big help to finish that part off.
And then people can take rocks off their front lawn then.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
so-
Right, exactly. Highway can whack them with the plows or whatever.
Anyone have any questions? Pete? let's make a
Sounds
motion.
eminently reasonable and logical, and thank you for doing it.
Good. Excellent.
Do you need any kind of a vote
You want a
from us,
formal
or-
vote for that? And a-
Well,
If you-
I don't know how you've
Yes.
done it in the past. Technically, there's a formal process if it's gonna become part of the,
Traffic rules and orders that you have, yes. So you should vote to amend the traffic rules and orders in accordance with the recommendations of the chief to restrict parking on the westerly side of Adam Street from Dale Street to whatever the distance is.
Yeah, excellent.
What he said?
What he said?
and to remove the restriction on the other side.
On the easterly side, yes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Perfect. Excellent. That's great.
So Chief, as
Anything
long
else
as you're
while you
here.
have me here?
Yeah, as long as you're here.
I thought I'd ask because I knew I wouldn't make it past the second chair.
So, yes.
Not gonna help.
How about the street where the nursing home is?
The nursing home up.
Because that street, Upham
Upham
Road,
is tough.
is a mess.
One of the things that I would like to consider down there is by the pond, there's a telephone pole and rail low fence. If that were moved in a bit,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
more towards the water, more towards the grassy area,
Yeah.
you could get 4, 5, 6 cars further off the road.
Yeah, instead of being in the road.
Instead of probably a third of the car being in the travel way of the road, which isn't much to start with. And I think that would be a help. The concern that I've always voiced down there about the parking, and this is one of these, I can't say that it's not broke, so don't fix it, because it is a problem. But a lot of the folks who work there at the nursing home
Yeah.
and who come and visit, they're either our residents or they're helping our residents.
Yeah.
So I would like to try something along those lines first. I could talk to DPW Director Mo Goulet
Yeah.
and see what he thought about it. I would probably need to talk to Park and Rec because I'm not sure who actually controls that bit of green out there.
Yeah.
Because we would be taking, if we thought about doing that, it'd be
Yeah.
another 3 feet or so. But it would get some cars off the road
Yeah.
and might make it the passing simpler. But if you get one truck unloading
Yeah.
at the back of the Thomas Upham house on the side of the road, it gets very tight. There's no
Well,
question about it.
And because people park on both sides
Yep.
of Thomas Upham, and it makes it a problem.
And I've thought about also, one way.
Yeah.
So which way one way? Then if it's your way you can't go, where do you send the traffic to? So it could be one of those things where you have wonderful intentions to fix a problem, which you do, and then you create an issue somewhere else. So the first simplest thing is if we move that fence a bit
see
and give a
what
bit more
happens.
room and see what that does. That's not very drastic. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not significant, but it might help a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you be able to restrict it for Medfield Day? So I assume, because that's one of the areas where they have a lot of
I think it's closed on
Activity.
Medfield Day, right?
road closed
Yeah.
off.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Closed,
that-
closed.
yeah.
It is.
And Chief, of the dumpsters a problem down there? See to me when I've walked down, there's been dumpsters that kind of jut out in the road a bit.
I'll take a look on the nursing home side of the road.
The nursing home and I think the apartment houses
okay.
there. I think they may be.
Oh, okay.
And we
other
have had
issues,
discussions, or the Thomas Upham people have had discussions with the folks of the apartment complex along the lines of, okay, when your tenants are out during the day, Monday through Friday, could we perhaps park here
Yes.
and get some more of them off? And that, I don't think that worked too well.
Yeah.
I don't think the dry cleaner conversation worked real well. I don't think the
Okay.
CVS conversation worked real well. So one of the other things I tossed out
Yeah.
was would the Dwight Derby people
Yeah.
like to entertain some parking in their driveway?
Right.
If there were some people who were gonna be there long-term,
Right.
who would be willing to park there and walk to wherever they work.
Yeah.
So there's a few things that could be done down there without doing a lot drastic, I think.
Or maybe along Prairie Street, along by that side of the pond, or
Yeah.
Chief,
people don't like to walk a block.
whatever happened to the proposal to tear down the house behind the UCC church and put a parking lot in there? Is that still under consideration?
Oh, that I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it
what
was
that is.
Mrs. Prince's house.
Yeah,
Was
I haven't
that-
heard anything about that.
Nothing happened, I thought there was some discussion about that a while ago, but maybe not.
I think there was some discussion, but I remember hearing, but I don't think we've heard anything since the
never came.
initial
Can't do anything. Okay.
mentioning about it.
But that's a very valid point, but I can talk to Director Goulet if you'd like, and
Yeah.
sit down and
Yeah, see.
have his nose. I've talked to him about a lot of things. The poor guy, I mean, you know.
Baptism by,
I'm picking his
Yeah.
brains for every line, stripe, and idea and sign idea I can possibly get. It's,
baptism by fire, huh?
yeah, we're trying to be nice. You know, we're trying to be considerate. It only works for a while. And then welcome to Medfield.
Anything else? No? All set?
Thank you all.
Chief, thank you.
Appreciate your assistance tonight.
I think we need to sign. It's the Solicit. Under pending items, whether we continue our discussion regarding the net metering contract agreement to purchase power from Carpa, whatever it is, the Freetown Solar Project, and I can't pronounce either of those company names, but I know they had been kind of, I think, looked like they had been looking for maybe an answer from us, but I think I understand from Christine, we've got vacation still from the school committee.
Well,
and
I don't know
stuff,
if we
yeah.
had had a chance to, we said we would discuss it with the schools, and I don't know if we've had a chance to have that discussion yet.
We've had, on the agreement,
Yeah.
Mike and Mark have been talking.
Right.
And then I had a discussion, in fact, he was gonna come up tonight, Carter McCann, the guy that was here last time from Sincarta. He decided not to come because there were some questions that Mike raised that you might want to discuss with the other selectmen, particularly in terms of the length of the contract. So if you,
And I didn't know if we had a chance to circle back to the school department to ask their opinion.
I did, I haven't
Okay.
heard back from them yet.
Yeah.
They've-
Actually,
they've been away
I know the
last couple of
superintendent was on
days, so-
vacation, so that's why I didn't know if we had talked to him or not.
Yeah, both of them were away
Yeah.
the past couple of days. So.
So, yeah, I'll, now that we're in an open meeting and I can discuss this with each of you. So I did go through the contract and I gave Mark and Mike some proposed changes to it. The biggest issue for me is the term, and that it's a 20-year contract.
Yeah.
And you're committing the town to this mode of acquiring efficient energy for 20 years. I think it's probably likely that the market won't turn such that it becomes a money loser. I mean, you never know. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't know
that's true.
what direction it's, but if it could, because there is a floor. And so if something happened with energy prices, that would be unexpected, but
It could be new technology
Yeah.
we don't even know about.
yeah, it could restrict our ability to have a more economical, more beneficial source of power from additional solar projects.
Right.
Because in order to make good on this contract, we have to use all of those net metering credits. I think there's still a question of whether we have enough accounts to which that we can apply them to make sure we can use the amount that
Okay.
are being sold. And I don't think we have yet from Andrew a list of those accounts, because as I understand it, they can only be used on electrical accounts in the same district in which this solar project sits, and Medfield is sort of divided. So some of our accounts are in one district, and I think we have to think about what may happen in the future in terms of if the Dale Street building ends up over next to Wheelock, would that still be within that district?
Yep.
And so anyway, I mean, and I also don't like the fact that this seemed to be the first offer from this company, as far as this is what they've proposed. And so I think we ought to go back to them, and again, I don't know that I would be in favor of it anyway. We've got a lot of other questions to work out, but if there were a shorter term,
Yeah.
it would be less risk for the town. And so I had given Mark and Mike some proposed revisions to the term, which would make it a 5-year contract, and would give us the right to renew for successive 5-year contracts, but would give the town the option not to renew.
Yeah.
And essentially, it would be up to us. If the company wants to renew it, they can come to us after 5 years and say, we want to renew it, and it's up to us to say yes or no. But if we want to renew it, then we get a renewal of 5 years.
Yeah.
And it just, that, I would be more, if we can work out the other issues,
Yeah.
and particularly with the accounts, I mean, that's one question that seems to be unanswered, is are we really going to be able to take advantage of this going forward? Because I know one of the issues that had come up in the discussions earlier this summer around the Green Communities Act.
Yeah.
As we've made progress with solar and other things, there are fewer areas for savings.
Yep.
And so we'd want to make sure, we wouldn't want to have to buy these credits and then not be able to use them.
Yep.
And so I think we need to, either Andrew or his successor to answer that question. But I think there ought to be some room to negotiate the term. And I'm personally not comfortable with a 20-year term
Fine.
in this area, which is, for good reason, sort of a dynamic area.
Yeah, it's true.
It's not like a trash contract where you can pretty much be sure you're going to have trash for the next 20 years that you're going to have to get rid of. And even in that one, we're just paying based on the amount we generate. Here, we're saying we're committing to paying this amount. So I would propose, if we want to have a further discussion with them, to see if we can get a shorter, more favorable term. Otherwise, I think I'd probably be inclined to say no. But
I think that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Totally agree with you.
I think, and absolutely, we need to make sure that we're going to need the credits,
That's right, yeah.
that we have that type of electric usage.
It
But I-
does complicate things in this town, the fact that we seem to get split a lot with, electric zones, and of course, we've got representatives of the north part of town, south part of town, so we seem to make things more complicated.
Yeah, I asked Andrew to come up with a list of accounts that we could apply to make sure that there is sufficient
Yeah.
consumption in those to make up the 1.2 million, I think we were anticipating using.
And I thought
Yeah.
I thought he was saying to us that there was no issue with that. Because that's certainly that's a drop dead issue if you don't have the need for it.
Right, right. That's what I still want to make sure before we sign it. That
How's that working out with Andrew leaving or left?
he hasn't been here very much. He's moving at the end of the month. He's probably going to do some work over the phone because Friday, for example, we're opening the proposals for the solar at the town garage.
Yep.
So we'll need his consult on that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but Fred Bunger has been a big help, and Maji, I won't try the last name, but he's been very helpful.
He's very knowledgeable.
Yes, yeah. So, and then our new facilities manager will be coming on board in October, so that will be a big help there too, so.
And as I understand it, the new facilities person is going to do the facilities for the schools and the town both?
Yes, yeah. Similar to what we've done over the years with the IT department,
Yeah.
where we gradually combine the two
Yeah, good.
functions townwide, and it's worked out very well.
so going into next year, will that become a new budget next year for the facilities department?
Well, we actually have money budgeted for the energy facilities manager because the grant runs out for the Andrews position, and then the schools had money budgeted for next year for the school facilities position. So we're combining those two and trying to come up with, well, we've come up with funding for the position, but he also asked for some clerical assistance, so we're trying to work that out as well. So,
But I know with IT, there was sort of an evolution over time where it was
Oh, the
couple of
division of
budgets,
time.
and then eventually it became its own
That's,
separate
I
budget.
think we're headed that way.
Direction, okay.
yeah.
Good. Excellent. That's
And will he report to you, Mike, or will he report to?
He'll report to probably myself and Mike Marcucci in the school department.
La Francesca?
Yes.
The other Italian Mike here.
There's too many mics in this chapter. I have to go by my cast now because I can't keep them straight. So, yeah.
Great.
Excellent, good. Well, I think that's great. That's some good suggestions. Thanks for doing that. That's
He'll also be working with the Energy Committee. That's the third leg in that, too, because he'll need to keep in touch with them. So
The Energy Committee has just made so much more progress with Andrew Seaman
Yeah.
as a town staff
Yep.
assistant to them.
Yeah.
it's amazing when you can dedicate your time to one particular task.
Yeah, you
So
can really focus.
I could do that. I could get my desk cleaned off.
Jeez.
I can't even-
All right, I guess next up on the pending items is annual appointments. Would we like to work our way through this list. Do you have it? We can- Glad to share.
Mark?
Oh, I think we have a few extras.
Oh, you have, oh,
Yep.
Christine's prepared, that's.
Do you have an extra? I have an extra, hold on. Might have it from-
Yeah.
I think this is the same one.
It's good. You got it? Yeah, this is from last week, this is what, yeah, you passed on. All right. So I think the way we've done this before, unless anyone is maybe we'll just kind of go page by page and then just see if anyone has any issues, and we'll just say, okay.
Okay.
And we'll get through the 493 appointments that we've got, I think, tonight. Committees. A lot of people. It's unbelievable. All right. So I guess, so page 1, do either of you folks have any issues with the appointments there? And they're highlighted in yellow, I believe, the ones that are coming up. Yeah,
Starting with Chief Kingsbury?
yeah.
and going-
Actually, you have 2 associates for the planning
Planning
board you
board.
would need to appoint.
Yeah,
A little
yeah.
higher.
So
Okay.
those are fine.
And the Chief Kingsbury appointment is for 3 years.
3 years, okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so anything that's highlighted is, I see, all right.
Anything highlighted is what needs to be done this evening.
Reappointed, yeah, and then we've got the sergeants and stuff, yeah.
So we appoint the associate members of the planning.
And are the retired, the people that the chief was talking about tonight that retired, are they off of this list?
The ones that retired last year, not the ones that have been retired, that are going to retire. I don't have them on yet.
They haven't retired yet, huh?
No.
Yep.
Okay.
I have no objections. I favor
No,
all
that's
the
good.
appointments of all of these folks.
All right. Page 2, we got everyone on here. You can see that. Almost everyone, exception, so.
And we've confirmed that everybody here is willing to
Correct.
be re-upped.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We should try to maybe, with the zoning board of appeals, because we're appointing 5 out of 6 of them, is there some way that we could stagger?
I'll stagger them. If you want to reappoint them, I can change their terms so that
Just
they be
stagger
staggered
a little
more.
bit? Okay,
Mhm.
that'd be great, thanks. Spur 'em on.
Do the associates, can they have 3-year terms too, or?
Only 1 year.
Yeah, hmm.
Are the associates 1-year terms, Mark, or are they 3? Can they be 3 also?
No, associates, I believe, are 1 year.
Just 1 year.
So the associates are 1 year, but the full members are the 3 years.
Yeah. You legally, strictly associates are only where there's a statutory authorization for them. There may be situations where you have associates, but they really have no real legal status. Zoning and planning are 2 places where there are, because they fill in the event of people having
Never
conflict.
heard from her. Send her a
So
letter.
can they be
Can we have
3
actually,
years or 1 year?
So we'll change that.
I don't know without looking at the statute, I'll defer if Chris has looked at it, I assume she's correct.
I've always been under the assumption it was 1 year for associates.
so from my experience when I was on the ZBA, I was always an associate, but basically we were treated just the same as a full member of the,
That's technically not right.
well, that's what I was wondering, is whether, can we have 6 members of the ZBA, or are we limited to 3 by statute?
You've got the 3, and frankly, the associates are only supposed to sit when the 3
Yeah.
regulars are not available.
Right.
So they're by default, it's not like, well, we have 2 panels
Mhm.
or whatever.
Yeah, you're not.
But I think it would take a change in the town charter to expand it, right? Isn't it by the town
No,
charter that
actually,
it's
it
3?
would take, yeah,
State
But it-
statute,
it's state statute.
But I thought we could have 5.
For the
5
ZBA?
associates.
No, 5 total members of the ZBA.
Uh,
I thought it was a town rule that we, because I thought we had a discussion at one point, Mike, about,
Well, you go either way, but they still, if you have a 5-member, then it's a 5-member board. It's
right,
not
but
like
I think it's a Medfield rule that makes it 3. Because I
Yeah,
remember we had talked about, there was some issue where you needed a 4/5 vote of the ZBA, but for the town, always has to be unanimous, because we only had 3.
right.
A special permit granting authority, if you have a 5-member board, it's 4 or
It's
5.
4/5, otherwise
If
it's
3, it
unanimous.
has to be unanimous.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
I believe let's double check. I think it's only 3. I don't think you can have a 5-member board of the ZBA, I thought.
Well, I
I'll
think
double
by
check that.
state law, I think we can have 5, but I think in
Okay.
either the bylaws or the charter, Medfield is chosen for 3.
It's 3
Well,
members, I think, yeah.
the special permit granting authority is where it's getting confusing, whether it's the planning board or it's the ZBA.
Okay.
So,
Okay. There is one on page 2. Tina, under the Americans with Disabilities Compliance
Yes.
Review Committee, Evelyn has reached out to her multiple times and we have had no response, so.
So we will not reappoint then Tina
Mhm.
Okay.
on the
And I assume we'll
Compliance.
appoint Mo Goulet to the DPW director's slot.
Yes. He was not official when I did some of this.
Yeah.
And the town accountant and Mark, is that just a one-year appointment for each?
Town accountant and Mark are 3 years.
Oh, 3 years.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right. We,
What does that mean? Is there a contract we have to approve?
Mark, you do a contract, I believe, every 3 years. The town accountant's not allowed to have a contract, and you just appoint her 3 years, but they are at-will employees, so
Okay.
there's no contract.
we fine? Page 2?
I'm
Could I
good
just
with page.
disprove when I left the room?
Yeah.
Yeah, shouldn't
You
leave the
didn't
room.
get reappointed, no.
Yeah.
All right, page 3. Thoughts with anyone there? No?
I think didn't Ed Beard resign from the Community Preservation Act Committee, or no?
Yes, he did. He said he does not wish to be reappointed, but he's glad to help out the committee if they need his assistance.
Okay, I didn't realize that, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, he called and said that he would
All right, so we'll take that off.
prefer not to be reappointed.
Okay.
So for the Community Preservation Act, it'll be Bible, Halsey, Groff, O'Malley, and Sliney.
Yep.
Reappointed.
All right, we good with page 3?
I'm assuming yes. I assume the constables and keepers of the lockup are all police officers.
They are.
Yes.
Yep, I'm good.
Page 4?
So the one question I had, this had come up, I know Richard had raised this, and it had come up briefly about combining the Downtown Study Committee and the Economic Development Committee. I don't know that we need to decide that now.
I know there's been some discussions about that, and I believe the Economic Development Committee was meeting with those members that are still around from the Downtown Study Committee, but I will touch base with Pat Casey about that.
Okay.
And I don't think there's any limitation on the size the economic development can be. So if you wish to take some of the members from downtown and add them to it if they're willing to serve.
Do a merger, yes.
Yeah.
And I will stagger the Economic Development Commission, because they were all appointed the same year. We didn't stagger them the first year we appointed them, so I will stagger them since
Stagger
they're for
them,
3
okay.
years, yeah.
Yep.
So I just checked the zoning statute, and it can be 3 or 5, depending what the town charter says. So
Okay.
it refers to the charter for membership and associates.
And of associates, 3 also.
I don't know what the charter says, if it says anything at all.
It's statute, I think.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
The statute refers to the town charter.
I'm fine with everybody on this page.
We're
Okay.
on 4.
Page 4? He's double checking, he's working his way through the historical commission.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, all right, good. Page 5.
And again, where it lists the DPW director, now that you've appointed Mo, I will replace him,
Mhm.
his name in there.
Why is he a director and we formerly had a superintendent?
Superintendent was the traditional term.
Oh, that's
More and
evolved
more,
over time.
The newer term is tending towards director.
Okay.
Ken preferred superintendent. I think the personnel board felt the
Personnel
director
board,
was.
like director, in doing the market study, most positions are director of public works or
Yeah,
public works director.
For the energy, should we stagger the Energy Committee too?
The energy committee is just a 1-year appointment.
Okay.
Should we try to stagger any of these ones that are more than 1-year appointments, like the Board of Health or? I don't know that it makes a lot of difference, but
So is page 5 okay?
Did I miss the roll?
Page 5 okay?
Page 5 is okay.
On to page 6?
And I know Lou Fellini, he's going to stay on but resign in November. Is that on
I think
the
that's it.
Permanent Planning and Building Committee?
So- Yeah, maybe once the buildings,
Once the
maybe with
police
public
building-
safety.
Then he'll
Yes.
submit his resignation
Yeah.
for that.
But we'll reappoint him for now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll probably need someone new on that committee.
Yeah, Lou was steady, stay through the public safety, and after that, I wasn't sure.
Okay.
So are, page 6, okay?
Well, let me just mention that the safety committee hasn't met for years. I don't know that that's even a committee that makes sense to have.
When I talked to the chief, and now maybe with the new public works director, he'll want to reactivate that and look at some of these issues, so.
Okay. All right, page 7.
I'm good with page 7.
Yep.
Okay, page 7's fine, excellent. And page 8, we know we have the withdrawn, from Mr. Brown had withdrawn, did not want to be reappointed, so he's off for the state hospital.
So it'll be
Master Plan Committee.
Nolan, Costello, Rogers, James, Carg, Casey, and Erb on the
Mhm.
Hospital Master Planning Committee.
Yep. Mhm.
I'm not sure that there's a need for a state hospital mediation committee any longer.
Yeah.
There's still some environmental issues that are on site. Because of laundry parcel.
2 years of clean
Yeah.
water.
Oh my
clean water,
gosh.
and everything else.
Okay.
So we figured we'd-
We had a meeting, it wasn't a full committee, so.
Okay.
State hospital
Um,
negotiating committee, that probably doesn't
Never
need
know.
to exist anymore.
Nope, negotiating committee still needs to exist because the issue of the roadway construction
And we don't have
and
the laundry parcel yet.
the laundry parcel's not completed, so
Oh, okay.
one
Always
more
room for
year.
negotiation.
We're hoping only one more year.
And we should have that, that December 1 date on our calendar
Yes.
to make sure that we don't miss that.
So on the Transfer Station Recycling Committee,
Yep.
didn't we get a letter requesting we appoint somebody new to that committee for this summer?
We did.
And I don't
Yes,
think
I
it's one of
a
these
couple of
names. I thought
meetings
it was a
ago,
different
yeah,
name.
yeah.
It may not have made it to my desk before I did this before I left it at the end of July, so.
Okay.
It
I will look
could have
into
been the
that.
meeting when Evelyn was away, too.
Did you
so
appoint them at that time?
Yes.
Then I will just add them to the
Yeah,
list.
just have
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
And I don't think it's one of these folks here. That's why I did.
No, it is.
No, these were
There
all,
is, these existing
these are all
ones.
reappointments from last year.
Okay.
Great, thank you. All right, so we're all set with page 8. Thank you.
And did you change the name, Chris? It's now Transfer Station Recycling Committee?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. What was it before? Transfer station?
Solid Waste
Oh,
Committee.
Solid Waste Committee.
And they were gonna call it the Transfer Station, and they're gonna call it Recycling and Solid Waste. No, Recycling and Transfer Station. And I pointed out that it's spelled rats, and they might have.
All right, page
It
9.
was spelled Sara.
What we got? We've got just
We don't appoint
we
any
don't
of
have to-
those.
we
Nothing
just got
else.
One, just the
Yeah.
zoning enforcement officer, and then there's just a couple of joint ones there.
But it looks
I
like
need
none
to
of
do.
those folks are up, right?
Nope.
Nope.
The Personnel Board was looking at, they were talking to a few members in town who are interested in being a third member. We do need a third member of that committee. And Rachel Brown had also may come back as an associate member.
Good.
So I will let you
Excellent.
know if that does happen.
That's an unusual appointment, though. I believe it's the moderator, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen,
And the chairman of the warrant committee.
Journal.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll get everybody together if
Very
we.
good combination, I think.
All right.
All righty.
I'll get you all an updated list electronically. so
You,
can-
you also need to,
That constitutes the committee that has to have a posted meeting to make their appointment.
There's somebody here on page 9 that hasn't lived in town for several years. Moser,
who's that?
Keith Moser,
Oh,
Permanent School Building and Planning Committee.
No?
We don't appoint it anyway.
is
Okay,
that,
so it doesn't matter.
That's probably why I didn't even look at it.
It's
'cause
appointed
a
by the
school.
Moderator,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Tell the moderator.
yeah.
I'll touch base with the
Yeah.
superintendent about that.
you also need to appoint a senior housing study committee. You had 4 nominees.
Oh,
and
we
you
did,
were-
didn't we do that?
no,
You're
you-
still taking resumes for it.
Yeah, I thought we
We
did.
haven't heard.
You wanted to try to reach out to additional people to see if you could get a mix that was more representative of the town. I think primarily the people that applied were, I think it was Roberta and the other 3 were seniors.
Yeah.
And you wanted to try to get a greater diversity on the committee, so. I did have one person that spoke to me about it, said he might be interested, and I asked an email, and I haven't heard from him yet, but it was Bill Gallagher,
Oh, yeah.
which would be good, because he's
Construction
construction experience, so.
management, construction management, actually.
All right, I guess we'll move on to new business. Selectmen are requested to vote to sign Chapter 90 environmental punch list for the proposed construction repair work on Phillip Street Bridge. Yeah,
Yeah, you will sign the project request form
Yeah.
for the bridge. This is an environmental assessment that you also have to sign.
okay.
I did talk to Mo about it, and wants to explore the possibility of perhaps widening the bridge a foot or two
Mhm.
so that it would be easier for 2 lanes of traffic to pass. So he wanted to talk to the engineers and before they put it out to bid. So I don't know if you have any feelings about that. I did caution that there is a problem when you go up to the corner. That's a blind corner there that they actually required to be left in there when the house was built on the bend.
Yeah,
So if you make it too safe to go over the bridge, then they might speed up around the bend. So
yeah, that's true.
I just suggested that they take a look at that and factor that in.
Yeah, I mean, my personal preference would be just to leave it. It seems to work nicely as it is, because it's narrow, so you can't go fast, so
It
it
does
works so
slow the
it slows
traffic
people
down, yeah.
Yeah, you're right, you'd always worry about if you make it too easy, people are gonna go
Yes,
faster.
we did look into the governor's small bridge program,
Yeah,
but it is for bridges between 10 and 20 feet in length.
oh,
And this
okay.
bridge happens to be, I think it's either 22 or 24.
24 feet, it's got.
So it doesn't qualify under that program, so we'll try to use the Chapter 90.
So we're just voting then to sign the environmental punch list
Yes.
permit?
Yes, yeah.
Do we need to sign it somewhere, or?
Yeah, we do, there's like a bunch, it looks like a bunch of spots over here, it looks like on the left side, yeah.
So I would move that we sign the Chapter 90 environmental punch list for the proposed construction repair work on the Phillip Street Bridge.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
What?
Thank you.
They did.
Just a little update, we need on the water ban and the water tower at the hospital site. Well, first of all, Mr. Massaro, thank you very much for the hour-by-hour photos of the tower, the old tower coming down, water tower. coming down.
And the
Yeah.
And-
rivets,
And
Yeah,
the samples,
got rivets.
yes.
Rivets, everyone, rivets from the water tower.
they're very
Yeah.
heavy.
Yeah, and we got a piece of piece of steel from the old water tower, so,
And I understand there's another 5-foot piece of steel that yet to be moved from the site. Has it been moved?
It's been put away, because it's not leaning where it was leaning, so I'm assuming it.
Okay. I understand the steel's gone to Everett, the steel that was removed, so I figured maybe we're gonna have a piece of artwork at the Wynn Casino.
excellent. That's great.
Although I
That's
suspect
good.
it's gonna be put on a ship bound for China
No, yeah,
and come back
yeah.
to us as razor blades or something.
Yeah.
That was Japan.
Are we doing anything with the cement pad for the old water tower, or just leaving it?
No, that will be removed. That's a different contractor
Wow.
doing the removal, so, yes, yeah. And the water tower was turned on today,
Oh, good.
Excellent.
so it's in business. So now we have a water tower full of water, but you can't use it. So, I did talk to,
Why can't we use it?
the what?
Why can't we use the water tower?
Well, because
Oh,
of the
because
restrictions,
of
the water
ban,
ban, yeah.
Oh, we were just gonna announce to everyone. Go for it. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
1.3 million gallons
Yeah,
of new
it's
water.
got tons of
There you
water.
go.
Yeah, turn your sprinklers on.
The
Yeah.
now famous
Guys.
water ban postcards, which were delivered to the post office on August 3rd, were finally back from their trips to Brockton and New Jersey and back to Brockton, and were delivered yesterday
Yeah,
to
we got
most
ours
households.
yesterday.
A few people got them Friday, but most people got them yesterday. So, however, in talking to Mo Goulet, he tells me that he thinks there was a committee meeting today, I believe, and he thinks they've gone to an even higher level of water ban, including Medfield, but we're not sure, so until we get people squared away on this,
Yeah.
and we're officially notified,
Yeah.
we should forewarn people that the next level is only handheld watering. No sprinklers will be allowed, period.
And the same time restrictions that we have now,
Yeah.
and the same odd even
Yes.
restrictions, but there'll be no sprinklers allowed.
If it's necessary to go beyond that, and there are some communities that are now under these restrictions, not Medfield at the present time, but Medway, it's no outdoor watering, period. Nothing, even handheld.
Because I hope, it'd be nice if MWRA kind of followed the same rules too, but that's all right.
They have a surplus of water.
Yeah, because you're in one of those communities, just knock yourself out.
And peculiarly, the western part of the state has been getting lots of rain the last few days, so they have a surplus. If only we could access it, but
Is this really concentrated east of 495?
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And there are some areas like down the Cape and that area southeast of Mass that are not nearly as bad.
Not only that, but also northerly up in the kind of Ipswich area.
Yeah,
It's even worse there.
Yeah, the Ipswich River is
Yeah.
like dry.
right, yeah.
Well, it was a couple of weeks ago, they had the Situate Reservoir on. It said it only had 20 to 25 days supply left in it. And it would look like a mud flat, really. So, but we'll see. But for right now, it's 1 day a week. I believe it's Monday odd, Thursday even. But if we go to the next level, and we will try to notify people with a more efficient method than postcards, I guess, this time. But the next level will be only handheld watering, no sprinklers, period.
Yeah.
And these will be enforced. The police and public works have tickets, and they will be issuing fines, so. No one can say now they haven't been notified, although I'm sure they will, but, so.
I mean, kind of practically speaking, at this point, if you can only water your lawn once a week, I mean, why the heck bother? I mean, it doesn't, it's hard to figure that it's gonna make a difference, you know what I mean?
That's
You know?
enough to
Yeah.
keep the roots surviving.
Yeah.
You know,
Mine's
stay
dead as a
brown.
door.
And I think the vast majority of people understand
Yeah.
the problem and the need for these restrictions, and are cooperating.
How's the
so.
water usage been, Mike? Because I know at one point you sent us something that said that it was like triple or something.
Yeah,
2.5.
normally in the winter, we've been going to, that we do between 900,000 and 1 million gallons a day. A couple of weeks ago, I think it was around July 27th, we went up to 2.9 million gallons. It's dropped down considerably since then. I think it was down to about 1.4, 1.5 million gallons, so people are complying. But hopefully it will we'll get some relief soon, but who knows?
But just out of curiosity, with the rate setting for the water and sewer, did they take into account at all that potential for decreased usage in setting the rate for next year? I mean, if this continues into the fall?
So far, the usage has not decreased. Overall, if you take the heaviest user period for water is really April through June. And then once school gets out and people go away, it tends to drop off somewhat until you hit real drought conditions like this. But so I would say the use has really not, on an annualized basis, has not dropped off. The Water and Sewer Board had a public hearing last week and voted to approve the recommendations of the Enterprise Fund Committee for the rates for the forthcoming year. They will apply to the November and May water and sewer billings. The sewer rate increase is 2%, and the water rate increase is 3%. So the water rate increase is down considerably from what it had been. And we seem to be faring well, keeping in mind that We now have a $6 million bond issue for the water tower, and mains is on there. And we are facing design and construction of a manganese iron treatment facility and repainting of the Mount Nebo water tower in the next couple of years. And longer term, we're looking at, we have about 7 miles of cast iron pipe that need to be replaced. So you do need to keep up with the rates. Unfortunately, for a few years there, we didn't raise the rates. And as a result, for 3 or 4 years, we had to have very large increases in the water rates. That period is over. The projections that the Water and Sewer Board used this year would be for 2% rate increases for water for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will slow down the increase in water and sewer rates, but will still give us sufficient reserves to deal with some of these capital projects. Sewer's in very good shape, by the way. Sewer, we're not facing any large construction projects. We transferred 40% of the debt service on the solar arrays at the treatment plant to the general fund because it will be used for the town garage. So that came in well under budget. And we're hoping, last week we hit the 100 megawatt level from the solar panels at the treatment plant. And I checked this afternoon, we're up to 108 megawatts, and that plant's only been open since, I think, the middle of May, so it's really doing well.
Sunny summer.
Yeah.
That's the
Yes.
side of no rain, there's no cloud cover.
That's right, yes.
Sun all the time.
Every cloud has a golden lining in this case, I guess. Yes, yeah.
Well, that's good.
Mike, is the Water and Sewer Board using Willis Peligian's model anymore or not?
No, they're using Mike Sullivan's model. Willis's model, it was very good in terms of projecting capital expenditures. I think they found it too complicated in that Willis could understand it, and he could implement it, but he was looking for someone to, on the town staff that could take it over because he didn't have the time to devote to it anymore. It was a great foundation that he established in setting up the basis for going forward, making those rate calculations, and they've worked out pretty well. So it kind of felt to me, so I have a new occupation if I want to retire and set up a consulting business setting water rates.
Next on the agenda is to vote to accept the deed and grant of easement for Rockwood Road, I guess, and we've got to sign the acceptance plans. I think we've got a
And
bunch of
there's an
stuff.
acceptance as well to sign.
Okay, okay.
So is this different than what we did before?
You voted a layout earlier on,
Okay.
Yeah.
This
before
is
town meeting.
Okay. So this is like
This
the
is
last,
actually
the
the-
last step?
This is the last step
Step
of
of
the
it.
process.
But this
To
is the
accept as a
same, this is
public way.
Rockwood Street.
Yeah,
It's a subdivision road as constructed.
yeah.
Yeah, and what you do is the selectmen of the Board of Survey in Medfield, you vote to lay out the street. That was the layout hearing in the spring.
Yeah.
And then you put an article on the town meeting warrant. The town meeting authorizes the Board of Selectmen to accept the street.
As a
and
public.
that's- As a
Well, they
public
vote to
way
the town meeting votes,
to accept it.
and then they give the selectmen by statute 90 days to either take the eminent
To
domain or
record it.
get a deed,
Okay.
Okay.
acquire it.
Good.
So we're coming to the end of the 90 days. Unfortunately, I was able to work with this developer's attorney to get this done. Unfortunately, we were not able to get the roads done at Eric Road Extension and
Oh, yeah.
the other, the abutting subdivision.
So will that have to wait until next year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they,
Have to go through the whole process, laying it out
They-
again.
All over again,
They were
right?
given
Jeez.
notice before the
Yeah,
town
but
meeting.
they gotta
and
move
there
it
was
along.
Follow-up, and it just
They just
didn't
didn't bother.
happen.
Yeah, that's it. All right.
It has, if it's not done properly, if it's not in proper form, it potentially come back to haunt you,
Yeah,
so
yeah, you
either
gotta
do it right or you don't do it at all.
Yep, okay, that makes sense, all right. So I guess we need some motions, Pete?
I would move to accept the deed and grant of easements for Rockwood Road and to sign the acceptance plans.
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
Ah, good.
So is this the final step in Rockwood Road then becoming a public
I
way?
have to take this down to the registry, but
That's
that's,
it.
Sign this as well?
Yes, and there's the pen,
there's a
special pen
for that one.
that was there.
Black,
Sharpie,
point
there it
here,
is.
Sharpie.
This is it. Oh, this is just the deed, so we don't have to look at something, yeah. That's
I don't
his
sign the
deed.
deed.
No, that's just his deed, if you want to look at that or not.
Sign all three of them?
Yes. The last one is a paper copy, so you could,
Actually, the acceptance plan, the as-built plan is just for our own records anyway.
For licenses and permits, we've got the Medfield Coalition for Public Education is requesting permission to place sandwich boards from September 12th to the 24th, advertising their fall ball auction.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, good. Wow, that was it. One permit. Wow. Selectmen's report. Mr. Peterson.
I went to a meeting of Medfield Cares about prevention, and it was to plan out their exhibit for Medfield Day. They're actually going to have an exhibit at Medfield Day, which is going to be their Hidden in Plain Sight exhibit, which they had over at the Natick Mall. They're doing another version of that, not the exact same things that were at the Natick Mall, but, and it'll be at the big, Kathleen Farrell's school at the corner. I always think of it as the Jackson Fabrics building, but at the corner of Frary and North Street. Let's see, the Medfield State Hospital Master Planning Committee meeting. They're doing an exercise now where they, Carrie Hewlett, the consultant, got everybody doing homework, and the homework has turned into like 4 different plans, I guess, or 3 different plans, it sounds like. So it actually seems to, it felt like things were moving. Although I'm not quite clear, but it sounds like they may be in the process of firing their consultant, but we'll see. Planning Board had a very interesting meeting to look at affordable housing, and that was last Monday, a week ago Monday, and they went through all the different sites. They had the woman who did the housing production plan came in and led the meeting, Roberta Cameron, I think is her name, and then people just brainstormed different areas, different opportunities to use town land for affordable housing. And the goal, I guess, would be to try to get to the 10% affordable housing level so that we don't end up with 40Bs ending up all over town, which it sounds like we got another new one coming into town along 27, I guess. Went to the Energy Committee meeting, and they're working on how to get down to the, under the green communities. They need to come up with a plan for a 20% reduction.
Yep.
And so they're working on that.
Yeah.
One of the fascinating things is how much diesel and gasoline the town uses. When you look at the chart of the energy uses, that was one of the things that really jumped out at me. I had no idea that the energy use of the high school is at the top, but then very close, and the middle school's behind that, but then gasoline and diesel were very close.
And in part too, we don't use a lot of contract equipment for our snow plowing. We do most of it ourselves.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of our own work. We don't
Yes.
contract out much, so
That's what
we do use a lot more. The base period is 2015, which was the year we had the horrific winter, so they seem to think that will help us a bit in
Oh, okay. Yeah.
getting down to the 30% reduction. It's tough because they had already made substantial cuts in energy consumption over the years anyway, so to,
Yep, so they set themselves in a hole, basically, to do the 20% because they'd already accomplished so much already.
yes. And you don't get credit for the energy generation projects. They're considered separate from the energy
Yeah.
reduction. So the solar panels at the
Don't
treatment
count.
plant, for example, don't count.
So Andrew Seaman is working on that 20%, that plan for the 20% reduction, but he's leaving, so that's problematic. The good news is that Andrew's worked out a grant with MAPC, and they're going to do the plan with the Energy Committee. And Andrew will do it from afar, I gather, too.
Initially, and then with the new facilities energy manager coming on board, we'll hope over time he'll take over
Yeah, but I think that the 20% reduction plan has to be in before
October.
October 1, when that guy starts, so.
Yes, yeah. It's October 1 or October 31, I'm not sure which one, but it's,
I know they didn't feel that they could wait for the new facilities manager to take it on.
right, they can't, because he's, as I said, he's not starting till part-time in October and then coming on full-time in November, so. But the Kelly Brown, who's the DOER regional rep for
Yeah,
this
she was
area.
at the meeting, a
Yes,
meeting or two ago.
and she said she's familiar with the application process and be willing to help out, as well as MAPC. And MAPC, I think it's a funding source for them. They do these grants all the time for communities, so. The difficult part will be achieving the 5-year. You have to have benchmarks for achieving the 5-year totals. They tell me if we get accepted as a green community, you get $146,000, I believe it is, that
148.
you can use for energy projects. So they have to see if any of that could be used for projects that would help with the reduction. So,
I think we had talked about last year before town meeting that we'd use that money when it came in to fund a piece of the solar project at the.
yeah, the only problem with that is it doesn't count. The good news is they're able to fund to do the solar on the public safety building as a change order to the public safety contract. So that's going ahead. They voted voted to approve the change order last Wednesday. And so that's all funded.
So that will be covered under the public safety building bond.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
So 'cause I know we had voted at town meeting to allocate a certain amount of free cash if needed toward the solar project with the idea that it would be reimbursed with the Green Communities grant.
Right.
We're not going to need to hit free cash at all then on the solar project.
Yeah, so that's the bids they're opening on Friday will be for the town garage, because that will be done separately. And, and that, believe it or not, is almost as big as the one at the treatment plant, the number of panels they can put up there. So that should be really beneficial. I think we had $390,000. We transferred $240,000 from the bond sale on the treatment plant, and then we appropriated another $150,000. So we'll see what the bond comes in. Andrew was a little bit concerned. He thought, given it turned out what the size of the roof is, that it might be a system that would utilize the entire roof might be too expensive. It might have to scale it back a bit. So we'll see. This is the first time I can recall we've used a design-build contract, which I guess is something allowed under the energy legislation. But the actual bidders will come in and they will bid to design it and build the project as part of the same bid.
So if just so I understand, so if we don't get the Green Communities grant, will we have to use free cash then to pay for the town garage solar project, or would that be covered under as a change order?
No, I think that'll be pretty well covered. That'll be covered by the monies already available that appropriated at this town meeting. So the $146,000, they're trying to figure out ways to use that. I think they'll try to put the emphasis on how to reduce energy consumption by 20%.
But the discussion I recall at the meeting was that this had come up at the last minute, just before town meeting, that there'd been an extension of the SREC program. Because originally we were not going to go ahead with the town garage, and so as the budget was coming into to town meeting, we didn't have money in the budget for the solar array at the town garage. And we sort of did a last minute basic increase in the allocation from free cash to cover the solar project.
I think we added 150,000
150,
at
and
a
then
town
the
meeting.
discussion was that we were gonna then, when we got the Green Communities
Is it
grant,
both?
we would then, the money would go back into free cash from the Green Communities grant. We'd effectively pay for the solar array at the garage with the Green Communities grant.
Well, I think what happened is
Because we had to approve, what we were told was that
Yes.
if we approved the stretch code at town meeting, we would then, it would be easy to come up with the 20% plan, we'd get the Green Communities grant, and then we wouldn't be dipping further into free cash to do the array. It would just be a timing issue. We'd have to appropriate it so we'd have enough money, and then we'd be reimbursed. And so it would effectively be a wash from a reserve standpoint.
yeah, well,
It sounds like that's not true.
yeah, I think at the time they were contemplating they were going to have to use some of that bond money to pay for the solar at the public safety building. And then because they have not had a lot of change orders on the public safety building, they're able to fund that out of the bond proceeds.
But
And
my
therefore-
recollection was it was related to the garage, that we thought the public safety building would be going in, then there was a change, a last minute change in the rules, and so we could do the garage one too. Because the garage was the one that was originally going to be going out to bid, and they'd abandoned it because of because they thought the SRAC program was not going to continue. It wouldn't make the
Yeah.
garage economical. There was a change, an extension shortly before town meeting.
Yep, yep.
And so, I mean, I think I would just like to have a discussion before commitments are made with respect to that $148,000, because if there's going to be effectively free cash funds used to pay for that solar array, I mean, I think we ought to have a discussion about what we do with that $148,000. Because it was certainly my recollection and my view that, I mean, I was comfortable going ahead with that change to the budget shortly before town meeting, because it seemed like if the stretch code passed, that there would then be, it would just be a timing question,
Yeah,
right? Because otherwise, because that was a fairly substantial increase in the free cash allocation before town meeting in last year's budget.
yeah.
And it seemed like those numbers balanced off nicely, that you have this Green Communities grants coming in, it'd come in during fiscal year 2017, and the money would just go to reimburse the free cash account. And in fact, you might not, timing-wise, you might not even need to use the free cash, because the grant would come in time that it would just be used to pay for it.
Yeah, well, the energy program that the governor and the legislature approved in the waning session a couple of weeks ago included a revision of the SREC formula for projects that are finished. They gave an extension from, I think the original was January 8th, 2017. They extended it through the end of March, I think it was. But you get your SREC credits paid at a lower rate. I think it drops from, I don't know, 85 to 70 or something like that. But if we can finish the project at the town garage, which I think we should be able to, because there's no site work, it's all on a roof that's already been prepared for it. If we can get that completed and in service by December 8th, we'll be reimbursed at the higher rate. That means it should pay for itself. The bond proceeds were only $240,000 and were transferred from the treatment plant project. And that was at, I think, 2% roughly, the interest rate. So the bond cost plus paying back the $150,000 to free cash with the SREC credit proceeds should be very doable. So we should start making money right away on
No,
that.
I get that.
Yeah.
My question is just about the fate of that.
It's the 140, yeah.
Communities grant.
Yeah.
I mean, I had thought the Energy Committee, I have a recollection of the Energy Committee saying that night, because that was during the meeting in the library,
Yeah.
when this issue came up, that they were fine with using the grant to apply to the garage.
Well, why don't I have them send you a copy before they send it into the state of what we'll put it on the agenda, and if they want to come in and discuss it with you, of what projects they're proposing to use for the 149.
Yeah, I mean, I just think we ought to have a discussion about
Yeah.
how we use that, because it was a fairly substantial, we made a fairly substantial allocation of free cash last year, and this was one of the one of the projects it went for.
Yeah.
At least in my view, I thought it was kind of a wash because of that 150 becoming it. So I would just like to have a discussion before they commit to spending that
Sure.
for the second
Yeah,
time.
makes sense. Yeah.
Pete, anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Just one question, Pete, on your report, and this, I don't know who answers this. So you said that the hospital committee is thinking about firing their consultant?
Well, let me put it this way. They're bringing in the person who finished second in the consultant.
Well, maybe they will be bringing them in. I have some concerns about the procurement process and whether or not they can actually do that. So I've actually
That was going to be my question.
Yeah, I don't think they actually can do that,
I
so,
assume the board signed the contract with the consultant.
Board of Selectmen did, so I actually had a brief meeting with Sarah about it today to get to see the copy of their contract to find out what the termination clause is to get rid of VHB, and the scope of work has changed so much, it's been at least a year and a half, I believe, since they hired VHB, that you would not be able to go to the second consultant that bid on the project. It would need to go back out to bid.
Right. I mean, it seems like if they want to go that route, we got to have them in. We
Yes.
gotta talk about that issue.
Yes. Yeah. I think from my understanding, and Pete, you were at the meeting, my understanding is that they're still trying to figure out exactly what their decision on that. I don't think there's been a final decision made
I
on
don't
that.
think they've made a final decision,
Yeah.
but they are inviting in the second place finisher to their meetings.
Right, and I did have a conversation with them that was going to be inappropriate. So,
7 o'clock tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they're that hard over yet on, terminating with VHB either. I just think there's some difficulties. I think they need
Yep.
to have some further discussions with VHB.
right, but I know everybody's.
It's not out of the question, but I don't think it's,
And everybody's concerned about the timeline, and the concern was they are starting to have some momentum, and I'm going to stop that momentum a little
It
bit.
certainly would.
Yeah. So,
I've got no report.
Oh, okay. Just, we had a nice retirement ceremony a couple weeks ago, I think August 4th, Thursday, right, for, Ken Feeney and Bobby Kennedy Senior. You were the early bird.
It was, I missed the food.
You missed the food.
Yeah.
Barbara, I had to take a train, so
It was very good.
I got the clam chowder. I
Yeah,
had some
the
clam
food was
chowder.
excellent.
It was a great turnout.
It was a great.
Yeah, it really was, yeah.
It was a little warm, Pete, didn't you say it was a little warm there?
It was
in the
very
parking
warm,
lot? Yeah. I noticed that later, by the time I left, it was like, wow, I'm like really hot. Because it builds on you after a while. It's not too bad, but then after,
Standing in that sun.
after an hour or so, it's like, ooh, it's real hot.
You missed the pickup truck that Bobby got for his father. It was a 1946 restored pickup truck. It was really
Chevrolet pickup
amazing.
truck. It was gorgeous looking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because his father complained, apparently, when he started, in whatever year it was,
1952.
yeah.
that the only
They started,
equipment
yeah.
that they had was a 46 pickup truck.
That was
Yes.
it.
But we've definitely got more equipment now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
More pieces.
I laughed because they had these tents that they'd set up in the parking lot, and they had the biggest blocks holding up the tent poles. There were these cement blocks, but they were like 3 by 3 by 2.
Yeah. Didn't have to worry about blowing away.
No, they weren't going anywhere.
It was a great turnout though, huh? I mean, really, it was terrific.
It
Yes.
was a nice event.
And 2 of our 3 legislative members turned up, and they stayed for quite a while. I was surprised. They seemed to enjoy
recognize
themselves.
Sean,
Yeah.
Didn't recognize Sean Dooley. Yeah,
Yes,
he's wearing
yes.
a golf
Shorts and a
shirt and
t-shirt.
shorts, and he had sunglasses on.
I think he had a
Yes.
beard, too.
He did, I think, yeah.
Well, they wanted to bring proclamations, and I said, no, we don't need a proclamation. We already got one from the selectmen. That's enough. So,
No, he had a boatload of
and
stuff.
thank you for mercifully shortening the proclamation process.
Yeah. We just did the highlights of Michael's proclamations, because otherwise we'd still be there. It was nice, That's great. And just a reminder, everyone, I think this Thursday's the last Thursday night concert, for the Memo Summer Series over at the bandstand.
That's a
across.
depressing thought. That means
Yeah.
summer's almost
Summer's
over.
almost over.
Yeah.
It's like unbelievable. God, we were there last Thursday, and boy, that was a hot day. Last Thursday was really
Yes.
hot.
Not as bad as Saturday, though. That was the worst.
Yeah. pretty hot.
There are some things on here, the solid waste and recycling total, our percentage is down slightly, but,
Okay.
that could be a rounding error. We'll have to see how it goes. We had an email letter from a resident regarding the proposed assisted living facility on Main Street. I believe you all received a copy of that as well. Farm Street resident who expressed appreciation of the water department for their work. They performed in,
Yeah.
where they had to dig up a service and how well they made the repair. So it was nice of them to write. We received a legal notice regarding a ZBA, a hearing to locate a auto repair, auto sales, small engine repair at 5052 Park Street, which I believe is way down the end where those coal bins are.
Oh, okay, that is the
It's
street.
Ghazi has the repair shop at the beginning of Park Street. He's, I don't know, the mover or it's a used car. And Mark, do you know what the situation, the selectmen have to license used car
Yeah, it's separate.
facilities as well? That's a separate procedure?
Yep.
Okay.
So that will be, if they're granted approval, I think they need variances and special permits from the Board of
Then they might
Appeals.
make it back to us, yeah.
Yeah.
When I saw this, I was afraid that his,
Can't get a variance, we don't give use variances.
Well, whatever, it might be, it might not be use variance. I think it is zoned for the use, but
So it's dimensional.
if you read the permit, it will tell you what they are.
Yeah.
Okay. Planning board wrote to Maurice Goulet. It's primarily about the lighting. One of the residents in the abutting Allendale property wrote about lighting shining on her property, and she also wanted
bless you.
webbing in the fence.
Yeah.
So the webbing in the fence was a condition of the original Board of Appeals
Yeah.
Special permit for municipal use. So I talked to Maurice, and he's going to put something in there.
I gotta love the timing of things, though. You know, the planning board's letter to Maurice is August 2nd. Didn't he start like August 1st, something like that? It's like, you know.
Do we have a
the
copy
second
of the
day-
letter?
Yeah, the second day of the job. you know.
Good rousing start. There's information from the Conservation Commission, a bunch of different items that might be of interest to people. There are requests for determination, applicability decisions or whatnot. Eversource maintaining their vegetation management program. That means they're gonna spray to kill the weeds along the railroad tracks.
That's what they- yeah.
Fancy language for that. We had an unusual letter you ought to take a look at from Kleinfelder, who is, I believe, a licensed site professional representing Cumberland Farms. They have written to Mass DEP,
Yeah.
and they are contending that some of the VOCs found on the Cumberland Farms site
Yeah.
may have come from Anton's Cleaners, because they had a leak there a number of years ago where there was a confirmed release of cleaning fluids.
Oh, yeah.
And they said that the test sites were upstream of the flow
Yeah.
in Cumberland Farms, so they had to come from somewhere besides Cumberland Farms. That I assume will be handled on the whole
Yeah.
DEP procedure. But I thought it was interesting, particularly in light of the fact that our wells are downstream from that site, quite a distance,
Yeah.
but they are, it depends on where the flow of the water is, so it's,
There are other cleaning establishments that may be upstream too, that may not be aware of the source.
well, they usually, I don't know what testing they do on those, but, and then Verizon has programming changes, so.
Mike, could you maybe just talk about the proposed 40B, what the town knows about that at this point?
Yes, I just heard about this yesterday. I did have a call from a resident asking what I knew about it, and I said I've heard the same rumors that you've heard, but because there was some surveying work going on down at Dale and Route 27. The planning director received a request to meet with her, and she scheduled a meeting tomorrow morning. They have indicated that a preliminary interest in locating a 40B rental project on both sides of North Meadows Road at Dale Street. It's a total of about 6 acres, roughly 3 on each side of North Meadows Road. Part of it is in the hole that,
Yeah.
across from the cemetery, and the other part is the Solari is a small piece of property that was owned by somebody called Mosier. Other than that, I don't know exactly what they're proposing, how many units, what it will look like, whatever.
Tough
So-
traffic area, huh? Oof. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
a lot of stuff happening.
I think it all leads to the conclusion that we need to do something at the state hospital to meet our 10% goal. And if we don't, this is our 8th project now we're dealing with. You don't need that many more units if these go through and the one at Pound Street for the Tilden Village goes through. It isn't going to be that large a project, and I think it's about time we faced up the fact that if we want to stop playing Russian roulette, we need to put at least some affordable housing at the state hospital to meet our 10% goal.
So-
Otherwise, it's it may be your neighborhood, it may be my neighborhood, it may be someone else's neighborhood. You mentioned earlier that there was a hearing last night. The planning board had a session
week ago,
addressing
last-
it.
a
A week
week ago.
ago, yeah. So, maybe there's some other sites that showed up there, but I think it's about, I had a request to meet with some people from the Sherburne Affordable Housing Committee. They wanted to know what we were doing. They have 5 proposals over in Sherburne for affordable housing, 40B projects. I said to somebody, every time a new luxury condo or office building goes up in Boston or Cambridge, they're going to want to put more affordable housing in the suburbs to meet the housing demand. So you can either do it on your own terms or let the developers come in and do it on their terms. And you're much better off for the residents of Medfield to do it on our own terms. But we got to bite the bullet and do it.
Is that Solari property the one that there was some discussion about putting the public safety building there?
Yes, at the time, Mrs. Solari was living, and she was not interested in selling to the town. She did not want to sell. She has since passed away, and her children have, I guess, her children have put the property on the market.
Oh.
All right.
Just going back to the one issue that was raised with respect to the timing and the Conservation Commission decision on LCB and the decision the town's got to make with respect to council, the issue that's raised in that. What is our schedule for addressing that question? Like, when do we have to make that decision?
I think there's 30 days to respond to
No,
the
no.
well, okay, you're the lawyer.
All right, so the complaint that was filed in the Superior Court typically would be, as I indicated last time, certiorari. The response under the standing order is 90 days to file a certified copy of the record. However, they also put a claim in for declaratory judgment, so I had to file an answer within 21 days, which I have done. So, but also indicating we'd be filing the record on appeal. So if you're gonna retain outside counsel because of the time that's gonna be involved in getting all this, there's a lot of documents that were referenced. There was no transcript made of the hearing. There are minutes, but largely it's in the form of documents and reference documents. So that's a matter of accumulating all that together. So if that's what you wanted to do, it should be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something we ought to discuss. I mean, this is, and it's no comment, Mark, on your ability to handle the case. But it's obviously been a topic of extraordinary interest in the town. And that has manifested itself in any number of ways through the course of the last year and a half. And I also think that, so we have to address not only the substance of the circumstances, but the optics of the situation and who's representing the town in the case. And Mark, you've obviously had a lot of involvement in issues around this project and the bylaw and everything else over the course of the last 4 years. And I don't have any reason to think that would impair your ability to represent the town, but I think we also have to recognize there's a lot of moving pieces here. There are abutters who have retained counsel. There's all sorts of issues that have gone on with respect to that piece of property. And so I think we have to make sure, number one, that both in substance and appearance, we've addressed it properly. Secondly, I think in these cases and where a town board has made a decision, I do think we have an obligation to defend that decision as vigorously as possible. And this is not to suggest that you wouldn't vigorously defend the decision of the board. But I think given the circumstances around the property, I think we ought to have a conversation about who's best positioned to represent the town, both given the amount of time that may be involved, because, I mean, LCB has retained additional counsel. They had their original counsel they had, and they brought in Reamer and Bronstein to represent them. They show no signs of taking it easy on us in terms of how they're going to approach litigating this matter. And so I think it may make sense to think about having, a dedicated firm to deal with this particular issue, because it's likely there's going to be a ZBA hearing at some point, a ZBA decision going one way or the other, and having somebody on board.
That's already open.
Right, but there's no decision yet.
Oh, right.
So, I mean, the hearing's been continued and all of that. So there's a suite of issues associated with the property. And so I think it may make sense, and I just throw it out there for discussion. This is something that I think, Mark, you and I had talked about in the past, and the note we got, I think this morning or whatever it was, reminded me of that. And so I just don't think we ought to proceed without the board making kind of an informed decision about what to do.
Well, my suggestion or recommendation would be either that I have a one-on-one with one of you, or that we put it on for executive session to discuss, because there's, a number of factors that need to be discussed candidly, without disclosing the town's position, so.
Yeah. Would we have to do that separately from today, or do that at a different meeting?
Don't we have an executive session tonight? But, yes. We're doing an executive session.
Unless you wanted to give yourself a chance and we could have that discussion.
No, I mean, I could, for just a preliminary discussion at the very least. The only hang-up is the agenda, but this is a matter that's just come up. So typically the chair has to, 48 hours before any matters that are known to him at that time, which is not to say that matters that come up at the last minute can't be on an agenda. Otherwise, I don't know when you're meeting next.
September.
September, 1st of September. Yeah.
September, the first Tuesday in September, the 6th.
If you're going to use outside counsel, they need as much time as they can get to familiarize themselves with this, if you were inclined to go in that direction.
If you do the one-on-one, you don't need the 48-hour notice.
Well, they can't speak serially either. That's the problem. It's just,
Well, it sounds like you're saying that we can discuss it because it was something that came up today.
as I said, the obstacle is the agenda, because that wasn't listed in the agenda.
So there's several other items that you discussed tonight that I didn't see on the original agenda, the one that came out last,
He's talking about the agenda that was printed for this evening, though. So there are things that come up during the day.
So the one that was posted 48 hours in advance contained it?
No,
No,
No, okay.
that was my point.
No more vacations, Evelyn.
I laughed when you set out the
I had
agenda on a
originally
spreadsheet.
anticipated meeting with the Conservation Commission on Thursday, this coming Thursday night,
Need more.
but several of their members are not available, so there was no purpose to be served in meeting with them and then have to have a further meeting after that. So I've asked Leslie to cancel that from the agenda.
Right. Would it be too late if we took this up on September 6th, in terms of the litigation schedule?
I don't think so. I'm just trying to think, again, it's the 90 days from, I'm trying to remember what day, I think it was late July that it was actually received,
So that would be into October.
End of October.
yeah.
And that 90-day is only a Conservation Commission decision, nothing to do with the Board of Appeals decision?
Yeah, there's actually three things, well, there's two areas going in a subset. So, as Mike alluded to, the ZBA opened a hearing for a special permit. That is still open pending, nothing's running on that yet. Unless and until they make a decision, it's premature to even talk
Do
about
we
it.
know why they are taking so long at this point?
There was a request from the applicant for this continuance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the other thing about special permits is, because of a quirk in the statute, once you open the hearing, until you close the hearing, no time starts to run, so they can really drag out.
Okay.
But the applicant has specifically requested this, whether they had gone back to re-plan it or whatever, I don't know. 'Cause I have not been attending those hearings, I wasn't asked to.
I think there was a change in the plan.
So,
I think after one of the developments last spring, there was a change in the plan, and they had to go back, went back.
Was it something to do with the third story that as a result of the change?
it might have been the fact that they were now interested in buying the tavern and including that in some way, shape, or form.
I know they were reworking, I think they were reworking the proposal,
So,
attempt to fit some
perhaps
of the other requirements.
to minimize it, so the other thing other piece of the puzzle is, when conservation sits on something,
Right.
they sit as an agent of the state under the Wetlands Protection Act. They also sit as the enforcing authority of the local bylaw.
Right.
The critical issue here was whether or not Vine Brook in that area is a perennial stream.
Right.
That's largely governed by the state statute because our local bylaw is not stricter than the state statute. That decision was appealed to DEP for a superseding order. There was a field investigation by DEP technical people, which I did go on, and they were waiting a decision from DEP on that.
Right. That's a separate avenue of appeal, right? The DEP is going to
It's separate, but for all intents and purposes, because the definitions are the same of perennial stream, that it might very well be the determinative factor.
Right.
And then if you were going to appeal a DEP decision superseding, that's clearly an area of specialized expertise and resources. As I've indicated, the Superior Court, I told you last time, the certiorari, whatever's happened, for better or worse, is in the record. You can't add to that. It's the judge reviews the record, determines
Yeah.
where the equities are. DP, if you went to a new hearing there, that's a de novo hearing. Then you come back to the special permit, which is open, but it's interesting to know where that goes. If they were to, whatever way that goes, it gets appealed to whichever court has jurisdiction, and that judge holds a hearing de novo. They disregard the proceedings and the decision at the local board, and they try the case as if it had never been heard before. Only when they get done do they make their findings and then go back and compare that to what the board did. And in the case of, if there were a denial, as long as there's, both sides can introduce at that hearing evidence that wasn't before the board in the first place, so you can fill in the blanks. At any rate, once that court hearing closes, the judge is then required to show deference to the local board on a denial if there's any basis on which, any valid rational basis on which, whether the judge agrees or not.
Right.
So there's a lot of deference there. If it is an approval, then typically, first of all, you would leave it to that would be one case where typically you would leave it to the applicant to enforce it because the town has no particular interest in that.
Yeah.
And the abutters would be introducing evidence to the contrary. And actually, there's almost a heavier burden to justify an approval than there is to justify a denial. So that's kind of the overview. You have completely different legal standards with the three proceedings that are either pending or potential.
But it sounds like this is an issue we could take up on the 6th, within the time frame for the
Yeah.
Concom appeal.
Yeah.
And should put that on the agenda for executive session at that.
And if you want to talk on a one-on-one in between, feel free to give me a call.
We just can't do it. Only one of us can do it, though.
Right, only one can do it, and you can't like one-to-one to
Right,
one. That's
We don't want to be like the
that's a
Boston City
no-no.
Council and
Yeah.
be
Right.
running back and forth from room to room,
Oh,
so
you know that case.
I do.
Well, that being said, the Medfield Board of Selectmen needs to meet in executive session for the following purposes, which is to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. I declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. The open session will not reconvene at the conclusion of the executive session. And I think the clerk, you've got a motion. You need to,
I move that the Medfield Board of Selectmen go into executive session for the following purposes:
just,
to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, for which an open meeting will have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and the chair so declares.
Roll
Second.
call.
okay.
Oh, yes, Mr. Marcucci.
Second.
Really given their
And you vote.
approval.
Yes, yes, aye.
And Mr.
Oh,
Fisher,
Melanie,
yes.
yes.
Me, yes, too.
Okay, excellent.
We never took up the Kingsbury Club.
They didn't show up?
I know.
No.
We're questioning whether or not they knew they were supposed to show up since you had
Yes.
already given your preliminary approval.
Medfield TV.